We are deep into this series where we are talking about urgency, how we can be able to apply urgency in our lives so that we can become more productive and more effective in our purpose pursuits. Leonardo da Vinci said that I've been impressed with urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. And I've been positing here that urgency is one of those things that we have to have in our lives just because we are human beings. As in, it's not some thing that is for a few selected people, but you will notice that those few selected people who decide to apply urgency in their lives on a daily, you notice that they are different. Their productivity is different. They are top-notch. They go places. They take shorter time to be productive than the rest who are average and sit back and maybe natural or normal. So today, let us delve deeper into this topic. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
In our recap, I'll tell you, yesterday on the previous day, we say that there are two major ways in which you can have urgency injected into your life. One is the natural way, as in you sit back, you don't do nothing, and then the universe, as they call it, or just life itself sends you a crisis, or it sends you a setback, an upheaval, a heartbreak, a loss, whatever it is, and then and there, you get urgency for your life. And we've been saying that the worst part of this is that it's like a cycle. Once that cycle is done, once you've gone through it and you've overcome, guess what? You tend to put away the learned urgency that was imposed upon you. You no longer become urgent in your life. You sit back and life continues in some kind of a cycle until such a time that another crisis, another setback comes and again blindsides you. And of course, I'm not saying that it's only when you sit back and do nothing that you'll be blindsided. When you're living in this world, whether you have urgency on a daily basis or not, life has a way of blindsiding us with things that we did not expect. You know why? Because we are not fully in charge and fully in control of every nitty-gritty aspect of our lives. Actually, we are human beings with an expiration date. Each and every one of us has an expiry date, whether we know it or not. But the point is that once we have urgency, we need to make it daily, because the number two way of making sure that there is urgency injected in our lives is through intentionality. That every single day we wake up, every single week we wake up, we inject intentionality in our lives. And I'm going to discuss how exactly we're going to inject this intentionality and urgency. What are we going to do intentionally to bring the urgency in our lives in the coming episodes? Someone said, this is a Harvard Business School professor and international bestseller on the subject of leadership and change. He's called John K. Cotter. He said that at the very beginning of an effort to make changes of any magnitude, if a sense of urgency is not high enough and complacency is not low enough, everything else becomes so much more difficult. And I couldn't agree more. Things become difficult when there is a lack of urgency in our lives, and then there is a sense of complacency, a sense of, no big deal and so on. We tend to struggle as far as being productive is concerned. So even as we're talking about the urgency that comes naturally from crisis and so on, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, why should we not, on a daily basis, apply the urgency that we do normally apply once a crisis has come? Tell me, why would we want to wait until a crisis hits us so that we can get sensitive and alive to these things? Why is it that we cannot live by these standards each and every waking day? Those are questions that we need to answer. And in this podcast, I want us to, go into our minds and go into our psyches and into our systems and really be present as far as that topic is concerned. I am not, necessarily just talking about you. I'm talking about me also. And I'm sharply reminded of the words spoken by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as he addressed the world when he took the bold stand against the Vietnam War. You remember the Vietnamese War? Listen to what this man said. He said, we are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action. He was talking about the fierce urgency of now. Let me just read it again. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. This is not time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action. You will think that is just a statement that is needed to be said in a moment of crisis or in a moment of decision making, or when we need to be decisive at transitional moments or at iconic moments in life and in the universe and, all of us together. But then you realize that these words should be actually daily. If we come to it, these words should be daily, that we are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today and we're confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this episode, some time back, I had a series talking about the most important time, which is the now, the present moment. And today is the point for urgency. It is not tomorrow. It is today. There are a gazillion things that we can be urgent about today. I kid you not, if I sat down with you and we had a discussion, you will tell me there are some things in your life that just probably just, they are not sizzling as you would want them to. And they will need some kind of urgency to be injected in your life. So we've already seen that the one way of getting that fierce urgency of now is to operate in life's journey and just sit back and wait until the tragedy hits you. That will tell you that you are not looking at the fierce urgency of now. Today you're complacent, you sit back and you wait. But unfortunately, that is a little bit too late for us to be waiters. And I'm not saying waiters in terms of the profession. I'm talking about waiters of those guys who sit back and wait. You remember what John F. Kennedy said? In his speech, what was the title of the speech? The Moon speech. He talked about it will be easy for us to sit back. Kennedy said in part, so it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer and rest, to wait. But this city of Houston, this state of Texas, this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them. This country was conquered by those who moved forward, and so will space. Those are the words that this man spoke in that famous "We Choose to Go to the Moon" speech some years back in the 1950s. Urgency, you notice, is not something that you relegate to the future. Urgency is now. It is of now. So I'd like you to sit back right now and start analyzing your life and ask yourself, in what area, and I'm going to be talking about those things in the next episodes, in what area in my life do I need to inject urgency right about now? And select that one area that you can start working with in terms of putting urgency in your life. It could be nutrition. Maybe you're not eating well. It could be your mental acuity. Maybe you're not reading books. You're not beefing up your own niche and your own industry. You're not sharpening the saw, so to speak. Maybe it's about relationships. You're not giving enough time to your family and to your friends. Maybe it's about your money. You are not spending well. You're not saving. You're not investing. You know the areas that you need urgency in your life. And let me tell you, the litmus test I've already told you, is when a crisis hits you. That's when you'll know what place in your life needed urgency. But I'm telling you today, even as we speak, your life and my life, they need some application of urgency, even as we do our purpose pursuits. And so I've come to the close of this episode today. And again, I'm going to ask you to like this episode, whatever place you've seen it, subscribe, whatever place it is that you've obtained this episode from, subscribe to it, and let as many people as possible know what's going on at Life Signatures Podcast, which is a virtual incubator for purpose. This is my light, and help me shine this light into this world so that one person at a time can know, can own, and they can deploy their purpose. Until tomorrow, when we discuss more about urgency. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.